For the next part of this class, we're going to focus on persuasive communication and persuasive presentations and how do we get people to agree with us and how do we change the people around us. And so specifically today when I want to talk about are sort of what are the targets, what are we trying to do? What exactly are we trying to change? So today, based on chapter 10, we're going to talk about social judgment theory and why that matters, the specific targets of persuasion, the three targets, and then also the concept of cognitive dissonance, what it means, and how it can be beneficial to you when you're trying to persuade people. So, this first one, the first image here is a little bit extreme, but positions on a given topic often exist on a continuum from sort of, and if you think about the political system in the US, we talk about being left and right, left being more liberal, right being more conservative. But anything, whether you take vitamins. And so the book talks about this idea of social judgment theory that for an individual person, you're somewhere on there and they talk about latitude of acceptance. So this is kind of where my position is, but I can sort of accept these other positions. These I'm going to completely reject. So for an example here, if we were talking about the issue of consuming meat in your diet, at one end, there might be people here, meat is murder, try vegan, from PETA, people for the ethical treatment of animals that are, very adamant about animal rights. So you have someone over here. And then here, I did some research and found out that there is something called the carnivore diet that some people follow. And so here's the zero carb carnivore food pyramid. And so here we're eating ruminants, these kind of meats, eggs, non-ruminants, dairy, and animal fats. So a completely animal-based diet. Now, other things to keep in mind too, and so we have different positions, but the reason people hold those positions might also be different. So there might be moral reasons about it. There might be beliefs about health, about diet. And the thing to keep in mind though is when you're trying to persuade someone, you have to sort of recognize what their position are and think about what can I realistically hope if I want to change them, what can I move them towards? So if someone is over here in a 5-minute presentation, what is the likelihood I'm going to get them to think you're right, I should go for all carnivore diet? Same way over here. Now, sometimes change is immediate, but most likely it's a process over time and we can move people along, right? So when you are thinking about that, think about what are realistic goals that you can set? What are realistic things that you can ask? Which goes to what are the three targets of persuasion? And they can be categorized into someone's beliefs, their attitudes, and behaviors. And the book also we're going to talk a lot about change because often I think that's what we think of when we think of persuasion, but it also talks about this idea you can reinforce one of these. So make their belief, attitudes, behaviors stronger, as well as attempt to change them. So beliefs are what someone finds to be true or not true, false. These are more factual. This can be confusing because we often say, I believe it is wrong or I believe it is right. Beliefs have to do with facts, that the earth is round versus the earth is flat. Attitudes are how we evaluate things and facts. So when I say, I believe it is wrong, I believe it is right, it is good to do this, it is bad to do this, that is where we get into our attitudes. So going back to our food example, I may believe that a carnivore diet has tremendous health benefits. I may believe that a vegan diet has health benefits, that eating meat is dangerous, that a vegan diet is dangerous, right? There's all these facts, but I can have attitudes about the morality of it. So it is wrong to consume animal products. It is cruel. I can say there's nothing wrong with it. The earth was designed for animals to be consumed. And so that gets more into what are my attitudes, my thoughts, and judgments. And then finally, our behaviors, which is what we actually do. And our behaviors typically are based on our beliefs and attitudes. So if I believe that eating all meat is healthy, my attitudes are that it's a good, wise thing to do, I might eat all meat. Now, that being said, our behaviors aren't necessarily always consistent with our attitudes and beliefs. So, for example, I may have a strong belief that eating all organic, non processed whole food is healthy, right? I might think that's a really good thing. But then when it comes down to it, in my behaviors, it might be difficult to find things. I might like the taste of something processed, like Diet Coke, right? And so I'm going to drink that anyways. So then what happens to me as a person when my behaviors don't match my attitudes and beliefs? Well, that is when we experience what is called cognitive dissonance. So here you see in the cartoon, it says, "Sir, we are receiving information that conflicts with the core belief system." And then the head dude in the brain says, "Get rid of it." So this is humorous, but what will happen is people tend to want to. It is very uncomfortable inside your brain if you are engaging in a way that does not meet your attitudes or beliefs, or if you have two beliefs that conflict. So what happens is we will adjust so that things do work together. So we could change our behavior. So in this case, I could give up drinking Diet Coke. What else have I eaten today that is processed? I had Sun Chips. I wouldn't have Sun Chips, right? I would have Triscuits that are all whole grain. Or I can adjust my beliefs and attitudes. So all of a sudden I could say, I could still believe that it's good for you, but I might also start to believe that, well, processed food isn't that bad for you. Anything's okay in moderation. Diet Coke just tastes so good and it has caffeine, so there's a benefit. So in my brain, I start to work that out. So how does that help you when you're trying to persuade someone? Well, if you see people engaging in behavior that does not match their stated beliefs or attitudes, you can point that out. You can also attempt to change beliefs and attitudes in order to change behavior. And that's something that to remember is that if I ultimately want you to do something and engage in a certain action, like if you want me to give up Diet Coke, you need to address the beliefs and attitudes I have about Diet Coke before I'm ever going to make that change. And I will say, I've had many a student try to convince me not to drink Diet Coke, and years later, still my drink of choice. So I really encourage you think about the theories that are presented in this chapter because they're very, very applicable and they can really help you as you are formulating arguments, whether at work, you're trying to pitch a new idea, you're trying to convince your team to undergo a new project. Maybe there's things in your community that you want to support, in upcoming elections, talking to friends and family members about a candidate or a policy. All very, very useful.